Super stripy, super fun, looks like a deck chair, makes me look like a deck chair when I'm wearing it. I'm not usually a blouse person, I'm more of a shirt person, but I thought I ought to get into blouses. Because you think these strange things when you're a sewer. Sewist? Sewer? I think it's sewer. I like sewer. But written down, that's sewer, isn't it? I think that's why we say sewist. Terrapant. The terrapant. Spelt T-E-R-R-A, like terror, like terra firma, not terror scary. Welcome or welcome back to Shirty Deeds. My name is Jen. I like to talk about all things knitting and sewing, and this is a continuation of my Everything I Made in 2024 rundown. In the last episode, I talked all about the knitting projects that I have completed over the last 12 months, and today is all about the sewing. So if you're into the knitting and not the sewing, go back, watch the other one. If you're here for the sewing, or even if you are not a sewer and are just interested in clothes in general and thoughts about clothes and making clothes, then stick around. This is probably going to be a long one. So settle in, get a coffee. If you make it to the end, then well done. Okay, so the first thing that I finished in 2024, I think I finished making it in January, February time. I think I'd started it just before Christmas last year, is a rather practical item. I don't think I've spoken about this on the channel before, but I have many hobbies, one of which is swimming. With the chronic disease I have, which is a bone disease, metabolic bone disease, I am no longer able or allowed to be a runner, which I used to really enjoy. But I took up swimming as a way to get some fitness and exercise when I was no longer able to go trail running anymore. And I got really into it, and a couple of years ago got really into open water swimming, and actually managed to complete a couple of swimming races, which was really exciting. And if you know anything about outdoor swimming, you know it's really blooming cold in the water, certainly is in the UK. And I only really do outdoor swimming between about May and September, October time. But it can be pretty chilly when you get out. So I bought myself one of those proper like dry robe type things. It wasn't dry robe brand, it was another kind of swimming outdoors brand one that's kind of fleecy on the inside and waterproof on the outside, and it's great to sort of, it's big enough that you can get changed under it, take your wetsuit off under it. Yes, I have a wetsuit, it's really attractive. But I was finding that was really good for like the beginning of the season and the end of the season because it was really warm and thick. But I was finding kind of midsummer, getting out, even though the water's really cold, if it's any sort of heat outside, I was getting too hot and sweaty while I was trying to get my wetsuit off and get changed at the end of my swims. So I decided to make myself like a summer weight dry robe. I think they just call it a changing robe. And I didn't have a pattern for this. There's not really, I don't think I could find a pattern for it. And then just thought, I looked at the dry robe that I had, like the commercially made one, and I thought it's kind of just a giant rectangle with sleevey bits and a hood. And you don't have to have a zip up the front because you can just chuck it. It's so big you can just chuck it on over your head. Just needed something that was big and loose enough that I could get changed under it out in public and not flash everyone. But that was a bit lighter weight and suitable for when it's hotter weather. So I made one, and here it is. Now, it's massive because you have to be able to get changed under it. So I'm going to put some pictures in of me wearing it. I'm sure this shapeless sack of a garment will be really attractive when I take pictures of me wearing it. But I made it kind of colour blocked. It's really quite long. It's got these big, sort of almost kimono-y sort of sleeves. I made it out of just all rectangles, including the hood, which is also a rectangle that I just literally folded over and sewed round. So when I put the hood up, it's got this like cute little elvish peak thing on it. I basically thought that might be quite fun rather than rounding it off, and it was a lot easier to sew. I actually made from scratch the sort of ties that go through to cinch the hood in, just as a bit of detail. I even put patch pockets on it because you want somewhere to put your hands, otherwise it's awkward. Pockets are the best, aren't they? So I will put some pictures in because honestly, the perspective of this screen is going to be impossible to tell what it actually looks like. But this has been so useful. It was exactly what I needed for a kind of lightweight version of the dry robe. And I made it out of they're all different types of cotton fabrics, which obviously absorb water well. And I don't tend to like towel off or anything. I just want something that I can chuck on and it sort of dries me as I wear it. So I made it out of all cotton fabrics and sort of stops the stinky lake water from basically just ending up all over my car, which is nice. But it was all made out of scraps from previous projects. So, you know, bits of fabric that I had left from things. The hood and the sleeve sections were made out of a sort of, it might have even been a cotton poly blend, but mostly cotton sweatshirt fabric that I made a sweatshirt for my dad for golfing in a couple of years ago. And I had enough of the fabric left to make the hood and the sleeves for this. This blue waffle sort of fabric that does the sort of shoulder portion, the ends of there's another section further down out of the blue waffle and the sort of bottom edge. That was leftovers from a dressing gown that I made for myself a few years ago, and I had thought about turning the waffle fabric, because it's 100% cotton, into some nice tea towels or something for our kitchen, and then it turned out it was perfect for this. So we didn't get new tea towels, we've still got the ratty old ones, but that's okay, I can make tea towels at some other point or just buy them. What other fabrics did we include in this? A cotton French terry. The red is a cotton French terry. I made a sweatshirt for myself out of it that was a bit of a disaster and is now like my gardening get messy sweatshirt, because I thought it was going to be this like really stylish sweatshirt to wear out places, but the neckline went all a bit weird and I didn't really like the design that I used, the pattern that I used. So that was a bit of a fail, but the leftovers became a complete win as part of this, the red fabric. And then the blue is a cotton, quite cheap cotton flannel fabric that I'd actually bought a big length of with the intention of making a nice sort of bright blue scarf. But it turned out it was too stiff and I didn't get a nice drapey scarf out of it. Thought a nice kind of soft flannel scarf would be lovely, but it was much better being cut up and not being a scarf anymore and being used in this. I did the pockets out of that as well, and the draw cords were also made out of that cotton flannel. So I did it all with thread I already had. So I'm calling this like a double win because it cost me essentially nothing. I know that I did buy the fabrics at some point, but because they were all leftovers or were previously something else, it didn't cost me a thing. It took a while because all the colour blocking, I had to work that all out. And I don't think I even like drafted any sort of pattern for this. I just did it by measuring out rectangles of fabric. It's the same on the back. So the stripes go all the way round from the front to the back, and I think I did an all right job of matching them down the side seams so that the stripes go all the way round, and it's got a sort of nice split hem, which actually needs repairing. The stitching's sort of coming undone a bit, but split hem at the bottom so it's easier to walk around in. all the swimmers down at the lake, when I sent them a picture of what I'd been up to over the winter, thought it was very amusing that I'd managed to make my own dry robe. I don't think any of them are sewers. But that was a real win. Really pleased with it. I'm sure I will get many more seasons out of it. Very practical, good make. Pleased with it. Success. Now, second thing was something that was an item that I thought was finished the previous year, 2023. But in 2024, I made it better. And it's this shirt. Someone commented, I was wearing this in a previous video, and someone commented that they really liked my shirt. And I really like it as well. It's lovely. But it was actually a dress before. This is I used the pattern, the Cali shirt by Closet Core Patterns, and it's a sort of slightly cap sleeved type shirt that is a one piece. It's not like a separate sleeve. What do they call that? A dolman drop sleeve? But it has a lovely yoke section at the back, and you put a pleat in the back of it. You can do it with a full collar with like the proper winged sort of collar, or a collar band, which is what I did on this one. And I made it kind of just below knee length as a dress to start with, out of this rather cool cotton lawn fabric from, I think it was a Lady McElroy. Is that how you say it? McElroy? Quite expensive fabric. And I thought that's going to make a really nice shirt dress, and I wanted to try the Cali. I did actually twirl the top part of it before I made it to sort of check the fit on my shoulders and things, and I thought it was all right. But because the cotton lawn is not the drapiest fabric, when it was done in the dress version, it made a funny shape at the back and just kind of all ballooned out over the back. I don't know whether that's because I've got wide hips, or it wasn't the right size that I did, or whether it was just because for a dress version, I should have done it out of a drapier fabric, not something that's more structured like cotton. So I didn't really like the fit. And at the time that I made it, I did wear it as a dress a couple of times, but only after making out of the remnants of fabric a belt, to like a tie belt to put round it, to sort of try and bring in that weird blousing happened at the back. And I did manage to wear it a couple of times, but I wasn't ever really comfortable in it, and I kept having to readjust it whenever I was wearing it. So it kind of went back in the wardrobe and languished for a while, and I wasn't wearing it. And in the end, one of my goals for 2024 was to try and use what I have, use up things in my stash, improve things that I've made previously that could do with being improved, and sort of be a bit mindful about what I'm actually wearing and what I actually need in my wardrobe. So I decided that despite the belt, it was not working as a dress. So I chopped the bottom off and made it into a shirt. The pattern comes as a shirt you can do it as a shirt or a dress version, or a kind of tunic length type thing. So I used the pattern pieces that had the shirt bottom to cut a nice curved hem for the bottom, and I've worn it so much as a shirt. It's so much better. It still hangs a little bit, like maybe I should have done the pleat the other way, I don't know. It still hangs a little bit strangely at the back, but if I've got a cardigan or a jumper over the top of it, or if I tuck it in, or if it's like a very casual sort of outfit that I'm trying to put together, it doesn't bother me so much, and it's certainly a lot better than when it was a dress. The only thing that now annoys me about it is that I decided intentionally not to try and pattern match down the front, to just have it really random. But in trying not to pattern match, I kind of ended up with these hands matching either side of the placket. Now that is not something that I think any non-sewer would ever notice. You probably didn't even notice till I pointed it out to you that the pattern matching, non-pattern matching hadn't quite gone to plan. I wanted it to look really random with the hands all over it, but it actually sort of looks like I intentionally put those there now, and they're a bit off kilter with each other, and it didn't quite work. But most people seeing me wearing this shirt would not even notice. Most of the clothes that you buy in the shops are not pattern matched, or there's not been much thought put into that at all. So people, I think, to an untrained eye, people are used to that. So nobody's ever commented on it. It's still a success in my view. I really like that it's navy blue and it kind of goes with everything, but it's quirky enough that it makes an outfit interesting. And short sleeves mean I can wear it all year. It's good in the summer because it's nice lightweight cotton fabric. Good in the winter because the dark navy colour goes with lots of my winter clothes and I can chuck a cardigan over the top of it, or a jumper or a coat or whatever. So that was a made in 2023 but improved and worn a lot more in 2024 because I chopped the bottom off. So another win, I'm going to say. It's not perfect, but it's almost there. What was the next thing that I made? I'm going to struggle to put all these clothes somewhere and sort of hanging things off doors and chairs in my dining room. I'm surrounded by clothes, which is just a bit bananas, the things that we do for these hobbies we have. The next thing I finished was another shirt. It's this one. This is my old favourite birdie button-up pattern. Did a long sleeve classic shirt version of it in this, I think this is a cotton polyester mix. I bought it thinking it was cotton flannel, but when it turned up I realised it must have some polyester in it or something because it doesn't really crease at all. And it was a bit harder to work with than pure cotton. But still really like the finished item. It's quite lightweight, so it's good for layering under things like this sleeveless jumper that I've got on today. It's got the classic sleeve plackets, which those of you that have watched any previous videos know that I find quite difficult because they're really fiddly, but they went okay on this. Just put some plain white buttons on. I'm not a big button fiend. I do like a fancy button, but I'm pretty sure these came off a shirt that my husband was going to throw away, and I thought I can probably use the fabric from that shirt for like pocket bags or something, and took all the buttons off it, and they were perfect for this, so I used them for this. It's got the classic sort of collar shape. I did a yoke, which I added into the pattern because the pattern doesn't have a yoke, but there's a tutorial on the Pattern Scout website where you can learn how to do that. So I did that, and I did it on the diagonal to sort of add a bit of detail, and I did that on the placket section as well, which meant that I didn't have to worry too much about pattern matching again because the detail down the front is on the bias, and I did that on the cuffs as well. I did those on the bias. So this is just one of those classic wardrobe staple sort of items that goes with loads of stuff. I tend to wear jeans and things a lot in the winter, and this is really good for that. And then in the spring and autumn, it's good as a kind of like overshirt to chuck on over a t-shirt when you just need an extra layer, but it's not cold enough for a jumper yet. So not the most exciting make, but very useful item in my wardrobe. I've worn it lots. And considering the fabric was, I believe, a very inexpensive one from Minerva, hence the polyester in it, it's actually holding up to the wash quite well. It's been through the wash loads, and I expect I'll get a few more good years out of this. Good, classic, basic, checked shirt for the wardrobe. So, success with that one too. Lots of successes and not many fails so far. That's good. What was the next thing I made? Oh, the next thing is a little bit of a fail, I think. You're probably all going to tell me you love it now, but I'm just not sure. This is a blouse. I'm not usually a blouse person, I'm more of a shirt person, but I thought I ought to get into blouses. Because you think these strange things when you're a sewer. Sewist? Sewer? I think it's sewer. I like sewer. But written down, that's sewer, isn't it? I think that's why we say sewist. Anyway, I kind of had this idea in my head that all these sewers on the internet were making blouses. Maybe I need to get into blouses. And I think this was around the time, I didn't ever enter this challenge, but it was around the time of that Sew April blouse challenge that goes on that I keep hearing about on like Instagram and stuff. And I got a bit inspired to make a blouse. And I made this is the ermine blouse, I think it's called, by Fibre Mood. And I did it as per the pattern with long sleeves to start with. It has these long sleeves that don't have cuffs on. And I thought, I'm not sure whether that's going to work, but I'm going to give it a go. I'll make it as per the pattern to start with and then see about changing it if it's just not right. And it turned out it wasn't right. The sleeves looked like, I don't know whether it's because I've not got supermodel skinny arms or something, but the sleeves looked dreadful on this. In the long version, they're sort of a bracelet length sleeve, and they just hung there looking like nothing, and it made it look really homemade and a bit rubbish. So I chopped them off into short sleeves and hemmed them as short sleeves. Now, this is such a busy fabric that you probably won't be able to see the detail, but it's got these diagonal kind of yoke seams that come down to a point there, and then the rest of the body of the fabric is all gathered into it. I wonder if I'll be able to show you whether you can see. Is that showing up? I don't know. Very busy fabric, so you can't really see the detail. But then it's got a sort of straight across yoke across the back, so it's just flat there, and then all of the back section is then gathered into that. So you end up with quite a lot of fabric going on that kind of billows around. And I saw the pattern pictures, and I thought, oh, I quite like one of those for summer. Maybe we'll do one of those. And there's something about it that I really love the fabric. Isn't it cool? That kind of cobalt blue on white. And I got it in a Fabric Godmother sale, I think. And it was such a bargain, and I thought the fabric was so cool looking, and it's very me because it's a bit geometric, it's colours I really like wearing. It's a bit smaller print than I'd usually go for. It's a little bit ditzy looking from a distance, and that's probably what's adding to the problem with this. But I just feel like it's really mumsy. Sorry if that's insulting to mums. But, frumpy. It feels frumpy when I'm wearing it. The gathers over my bust line make me look frumpy around that area, I think. The gathers at the back give it too much sort of billowy volume. I've tried it tucked into things. I've tried it with a sort of like French tuck, front tuck thing. I just don't know whether I can get on board with it. So maybe if I put some pictures up of me wearing it, you can tell me whether I look frumpy and awful and it's just not very me, or whether it can still work. I did think maybe I might be able to de-frump it if I took the sleeves off completely and just did a bound edge and had it as like a tank vest type top. But that's not going to fix the fact that I feel like the neckline is a bit low on me and lower than I would like. It's not like busty or anything, but it's just kind of like a nondescript middle sort of depth of neckline that isn't really doing anything for me. I'm just not sure about it, and I'm a bit gutted because I'm pretty sure you can't get this fabric anymore, and I really like it. And I feel like I made it into something that is a bit rubbish. And I've worn it a couple of times, I've really tried with it, but I just don't think it's for me. It's a shame. I thought with the pattern and the fabric it was going to be a total winner, but it just wasn't. What do you think? What do you think? Bit of a fail. I'm sharing the fails as well as the wins because we all have them. And it doesn't mean you're crap at sewing. It just means you made one thing that wasn't quite right. And that's one of them. So let's go on to something that was more of a success. I think this was the next thing that I finished. And that is a hoodie that is my disco hoodie. I love this. I've worn it loads. It's been through the wash so many times that it's starting to get that sort of like faded lived-in look, which I don't love, but it means that I've been wearing it loads and it was a good make. It's the hoodie pattern that I usually go for because it's sort of a fairly slim fit, but it's really comfortable. And that is the Stella hoodie out of the Tilly and the Buttons stretch book, which when I first started sewing again in a big way about 5 years ago, I got as a Christmas present, the stretch book. And I've made quite a lot of the things out of it, but the thing I've made the most of is the Stella hoodie. I like a hoodie. So this one has got a few modifications. I've made a few iterations of the hoodie and I've sort of altered it as I've gone along. I think I add something like 3 or 4 inches to the length of the sleeves. I just use the same pattern pieces over and over again now. But when I initially made it, I worked out that I was going to have to add a lot to the sleeves because I've got the long arms. And I think it's about 3 or 4 inches to make sleeves that are the length I want them. I also add length to the body as well, because although I've got long legs and a shorter body, I am tall, so I usually do need to add a bit in the torso as well. So added probably 1.5 inches lengthwise as well. With this one, I did the cuffs and the bottom band, didn't use ribbing or anything, just used more of the same fabric, which is a quite substantial, nice, fleecy back French terry fabric. I think I got from Little Legs Fabrics. They have loads of colours. You can also get ribbing to match. But I didn't, I just used, I knew I'd have enough fabric to do the cuffs and stuff out of this, so I didn't want to buy anything extra. And then the other modifications that I've made, apart from the disco, which I'll go on to in a minute, is the hood. The hood for the Stella hoodie, as it is in the pattern, the 2 edges of the hood just come down and sort of butt up to each other at the front there. And then you put a couple of buttonholes before you sort of sew up the hood and put it on, and thread through like a draw cord round in a channel round the front of the hood. For this one, I did not want, because I knew I wanted to do this design on the front, I didn't want cords hanging down and obscuring that, but I still wanted a hood that was like usable, that sort of drew in a bit and like I could put up, like we go camping a lot and I wanted to be able to put the hood up when it was cold in the evenings and things. So just around the top section of hood, I actually, in that channel that you create, I put some elastic, just some like basic knicker elastic type stuff in there, so that when I wear it, it just sort of sits over the front of my head without blowing off in the wind. And I think it looks quite cool, having a little sort of elastic thing. It also makes it sit quite nicely when it's on and just back over my back. I think the elastic in it looks quite cool. And the other modification to the hood is that I extended those front sections so that it doesn't meet in the middle like that. I added a little piece onto that front pattern piece so that they cross over like that instead. And I feel like that makes the front section look a bit more, just finishes it a bit nicer than in the pattern, I think. So I really like this. It's a jumper that feels really comfortable to me. It fits really well. Because it's a drop shoulder sort of design, it's really easy to insert the sleeves. It's really easy to put together. And it fits with my wide sort of square shoulders. So it's really comfortable. That's why I've made several of them. And for this one, my husband is a DJ as his sort of second occupation. And as a result, we're lucky enough to get tickets to quite a few festivals over the summer. We really like going to see live music and DJs and bands and stuff. So we go to festivals and we're camping, and even if it's really hot in the daytime, you always get cold in the evenings. And I wanted something that was cool to chuck on, but that was also quite fun and a bit festival in my own way. So I decided to put some applique on the front saying disco. And this was, I didn't buy these letters from anywhere. They weren't like applique that you like buy and iron on. I made them out of a sort of stretch lurex kind of fabric that in this light just kind of looks like a mild grey. I don't know if I move it around you'll get a better impression. But it's silver, it's sparkly lurex. So I had to do a few practice runs. The lettering was something that was a font that I found that I thought would look quite cool and a bit 80s. That I then got my husband, who is, when he's not a DJ, he's a graphic designer, to tweak the font a little bit to make it work for cutting out a fabric and doing applique with, so the lines are all quite easy to follow to sew round to do it applique style. And I'd never done anything like this before. I don't think I even watched any tutorials about doing applique, which I probably should have done. I just thought, I reckon I can work out how to do this. Like, I've seen things appliqued on stuff. I'm kind of good enough with the sewing machine that I reckon I can work out how to do this. And I did. But it took a few practice goes. I kept cutting out the D over and over again and using scrap bits of fabric to practice putting it on and seeing how smooth a finish that I could get attaching it. And what I ended up having to do is fusing fusible interfacing to the back of the silver fabric because it was really stretchy and it would all stretch out of shape when I tried to sew it on. So I had to interface that to like stiffen it up. And then to make it work from the inside, oh gosh, I'm really showing you the dregs of this now. I had to put interfacing on the back interior of the fabric, that's the inside of the jumper. So I had to put a strip of interfacing there where I knew I was going to be attaching all the letters. Then I had to very carefully, with these interfaced letters, one at a time, I had to draw out, to start with, a grid to get them all in the middle of the jumper and spaced correctly so that it read properly and looked neat and tidy and was straight and everything. So I drew out of like marking chalk this whole grid system and measured out exactly where each letter was going to go and drew on where all the letters were going to go. And then one at a time I would pin them on really carefully and then sewed round with a very tiny zigzag stitch on the machine with this bright yellow thread that I had. I considered doing like a neon pink, but actually I'm not really a massive pink person and I'm really glad that I went with the yellow. I think it looks quite cool with the petrol greeny blue colour of the jumper. So it's my disco hoodie and I did wear it lots in the evenings at the festivals that we went to. It's warm enough for a nice layer in the evening in the summer. I think it looks pretty fun, but also a bit graphic and not too hippie or girly, which is not my style. But it's been a very well-worn item in the wardrobe and has seen many an outing that aren't at festival type occasions as well, because I just think it's really cool. The disco hoodie was a big success. Hooray, another success. And my first time doing applique. So, learnt a new skill there. Self-taught myself a new skill. I don't know whether that's the way you're supposed to do it, but it worked. The disco has stayed on through many times of the wash. That's how I did it. The next thing that I finished was actually not completely made by me, and you'll probably be able to tell in an instant that I didn't make this original item. This was a denim jacket that I couldn't resist. I saw it in a charity shop near where I live, where I often go to try and find like fabrics and bits and bobs for making stuff, crafting and clothes and shoes and all sorts. Do like a bit of charity shop shopping. And I saw this denim jacket for like £8, which is a total bargain. And I can't even remember where it's from. I actually took the label out because it was really scratchy. So I don't know where this original jacket was from. Can't remember. But I bought it, I sort of tried it on in the shop, and it was a really weird shape, but it was big enough that I thought I could alter it to be something that I would wear. So I'm counting this as a finished make because I did do some quite significant alterations to it to make it fit me better and be something that I would wear. So we're going to call this a finished item of 2024. First thing I knew that I wanted to do was take in the side seams and make it a better shape at the back which was quite involved because a denim jacket has a bottom band on it that if you want to do anything to do with the side seams or the back seams or anything, you have to unpick at least part of the bottom band and then re-sew it back on. And it was all in the kind of thick thread top stitching that is done with denim things. So it was a bit of a mission unpicking around each side seam. And then unpicking, well, I didn't unpick the side seam, but I kind of completely re-sewed it so it was a different shape. So this jacket, when I bought it, was, I mean, it might have even been a men's jacket, but it was this style where it had these kind of really balloon-shaped sleeves that had darts in, and then the body was really balloon-shaped as well, and I wanted something that was a bit oversized, chuck it on over everything, but it was too oversized. So I had to completely reshape that, but at the same time, I then thought I needed to reshape the sleeves. And since when you sew something like that, you would sew the side seam and the sleeve seam, usually you do it all in one go. I thought I'm going to have to do this sort of all in one go. So I had to deconstruct like half the jacket before I could even start putting anything back together. And I was a bit worried that I was just going to ruin it. But I mean, it cost me £8, so what are you going to lose? Not much. So these sleeves originally, you can see where they had these darts in, because it was obviously the bleach wash that they did to it was obviously after the garment was made, which is why you get all this kind of distressed look. But it had these darts in the sleeves were much wider. They came down really low. They were almost like batwing style, but they had these darts in that made them almost like a barrel shape around your arm, which I think was supposed to look really 80s or early 90s or something. And probably looks cool on someone 20 years younger, and it just wasn't quite the style that I was going for. So I'd sort of unpicked the bottom bit, realised that I needed to do something about the sleeves as well, ended up having to, in order to undo the dart to make it a straighter sleeve again, had to unpick almost the entire side underarm seam there, to then unpick the whole dart and then press the life out of it because it was so ingrained in and pressed in from all the previous washes and things that it had done to it, to undo the dart and flatten it out. Obviously had to do this on both sleeves. Then once the fabric was all flat and it was more of a straight sleeve again, then could take in that entire seam and the entire side seam at the same time and reshape it how I wanted, which took several goes to get it the shape I wanted. And then put on the bottom band again. Now that little bit of blue, that was obviously from something being there before it was bleach washed, or whatever treatment they did to it, was like a tab that then came across and attached to these buttons. And I had, in order to get at the side seam, I had to take that tab off. And it was an absolute bugger to take off. Excuse my French. It was sewn on there, obviously, with some sort of dinosaur strength industrial machine. And it took me hours to just get these two tabs off from the bottom of this jacket. I was hacking at it with scissors, and I didn't want to ruin the denim fabric underneath. I wanted to get them off cleanly, and my intention was to sew them back on again once the side seams and everything was adjusted, so I could have that detail of the tabs back on there. By the time I'd got them off, firstly, I was kind of done with it and couldn't be bothered to then sew them back on. But also, the tab bit, as it should have been sewn back on, was so thick, and this denim is so sturdy and thick, that even my pretty good sewing machine, I thought, I'm going to break about 1,000 needles and it's going to be really hard to sew them back on. So I'm calling it an intentional detail that's left there. And it does kind of match with the slightly strange opened up dart detail that's under the sleeves, which actually, when it's on, I think looks quite cool. But I turned a very cheap, bought in a charity shop denim jacket that someone decided they didn't want anymore into something that I will be able to wear for years and years, or until I decide that a bleached denim jacket is not for me anymore. But it's really good. I just throw it on over everything, and I think it was pretty successful. What do you reckon? Yay! I'm still running out of places to put things. Please excuse me. Next finished sewn thing is something that I can't show you in person because it is locked in the back of our van. Some insulated window cover blind things for the back of our camper van. We've spent the last year doing up an old work van into a camper van to go on holiday in. And we're nearly there with it. We should have it finished this spring, ready for the summer season, but we have been using it already because it's almost there. I spent a lot of time learning how to do van electrics, so we can add that one to my list of skills now. Camper van electrician. And my husband's done incredible amounts of carpentry and woodwork. Perhaps I'll try and put some pictures up of where we've got to so far with the van. And I'll try and show you some pictures of these window blinds that I made. We sort of knew quite early on that we were going to have to insulate everything really well so we didn't get like massive condensation problems. And anybody that's been in the back of a big metal van in the summer knows how hot it gets, but also how cold it gets in colder weather. So insulation was really key. But of course we cut holes in the side of our van and put these windows in, and it's just a single pane of like strengthened glass. So that was going to be a real point where the insulation was going to be a bit of a fail. So I'd seen a few people around buying or making insulated window covers, and they'd done it with all sorts of insulating foil and sucker pads and magnets and done all sorts of different things to make them. And I wanted them to look really stylish and have a nice textile finish because I'm into textiles and that kind of thing, and I didn't want to just have like horrible foil things in the windows of the van when we were using it. And it took us a while to hit on a colour scheme for the interior, but we wanted it to kind of go with the red of the outside of the van. And I discovered in my stash this fabric that had been laying around for a long, long time. I'd made one pair of shorts out of it, but I still had the best part of 6 meters of this fabric left. And I loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Bought it in Paris from one of their amazing fabric stores in their fabric district of Paris. There were many sort of ideas of what I could use it for over the years, but it was so precious to me that I couldn't think of what to make out of the rest of this fabric after I'd made like one pair of shorts out of it. And then when we were trying to decide on a colour scheme for the interior of our van and to make it really personalised and unique to us and interesting and somewhere that we'd really like to be, I found the fabric in my stash again, and of course it has red in it, and our van's red. And I love that combination of like turquoisey pale blue and teal and red. And I just thought this is what I used the fabric for. And it's quite a thick, sturdy African wax print, 100% cotton. I thought this is actually going to be perfect. I can make cushion covers out of this. I can do the window blinds out of it. There might be other accessories that we need that I could use this fabric for. And the first thing that I've made so far with it is these window covers. They're insulated. And in order to get them up there and to be as insulating as possible, needed them to fit exactly into the window surround, so that they fit in there really snugly. So I did all sorts of things with big rolls of paper and making templates and holding it up into the van. And if you've ever done any work in a vehicle, it's not like doing woodwork or carpentry or anything in a house where things are generally at 90 degrees and things are square. In a van, nothing is straight, nothing is level, everything's a funny shape. And even though these windows look very similar on the two long sides of the van, they are not the same size at all. So I had to make 2 separate templates to fit perfectly around the windows, and they had to fit perfectly because my intention was to be able to pop them in there with magnets to keep them all snug to the window so that there were no gaps and light couldn't get in, etc. And also heat couldn't either escape or get in. So I made these big paper templates, and yeah, the intention was to put magnets around the edge so that it could stick to the surrounds that sort of cover the metal edge inside the van. So you cut a hole in the side of the van for where the window's going to go. And then before you stick the window on with this crazy adhesive, the edge metal bit on the inside, you put this sort of U-channel rubber stuff to cover up that edge. And it's nice, it's black, it just sort of fits in nicely, and it's flexible, but it's got like steel or something in it. It's got metal in it that is magnetic. So once that's all in place and the window's on, I thought, if I make these window blinds so that they fit around that U-channel edge with the rubber edge with the metal inside it, I can put magnets right round the edge of this thing, and we'll be able to just pop them into place with the magnets and it'll stay there. So that's what I did. And it worked really well, actually. I did have to buy more magnets and add more, because to get a really snug fit, I had to put more magnets around the edge than I thought I would have to. But I managed to do it so that all you can see from the interior is the gorgeous African wax print fabric. And then the binding that I used, I pulled all the way around to the back, just a strip of like black cotton that I used for the binding, all the way around to the back, and that's what I got these little round magnets with holes in that you can sew into things that are tucked inside the binding at the back and sewn in. So you can't see them at all, and it's all quite seamless looking. And they have this quilted effect because I used for the backside that you would see on the outside of the van from the exterior, it's a silver fabric that's a light reflecting fabric. And that was actually also an upcycled thing from some wheel covers that my in-laws, who used to have a motorhome, had for their motorhome to protect the tyres. And we thought that's probably not something we're never going to use, but it was this special light reflecting fabric that I took all these wheel covers apart and had just enough fabric to piece it all back together to make the exterior part of these window covers so that they would reflect sunlight coming in and hitting the windows, hopefully reflect some of it out so it wasn't going to get like an oven inside the van. The interior batting is actually some Thinsulate brand wadding that had quite a good insulating properties. So it's the gorgeous decorative fabric for the inside, the insulating fabric, the silver reflective fabric on the back, quilted all that together, did a binding round the edge that all got taken round to the back, and as I was sewing it round, I attached magnets into it so that they stick in the windows. And they're easy to get on and off with the magnets. They don't really get stuck on too hard, but they are strong enough so that if we've forgotten to take the window covers off and we're off driving for 5 hours to go somewhere, they stay on and they don't end up sort of half falling off. Sorry I can't show you it in person. The reason I can't is because at the moment, because we haven't driven it for so long, our van battery has gone flat. And the van battery is required to work the central locking to open the back of the van. And that's where the window covers are at the moment. And I can't open the back of the van until we have recharged the battery. So you're going to have to make do with some pictures I might be able to show you and my description of these things. Hope that's okay. But that was a finished item that we think has been a big success. So probably the last of the proper summer makes was my only dress of the year that I made. And it was another thing that I wanted to get done as kind of festival wear. I wanted a dress that had shoulder coverage because we were going to be out all day in potentially the sun, and sun cream is just a pain in the bum, isn't it? And it just makes you all sticky. And when you're at a festival, as you probably all know, even if there are showers, it is likely you're not going to be able to use them, and you will spend 4, 5 or even 6 days not having a proper shower, and you get all sticky and grungy, and the more things you add like sun cream, the more gross you get. So I thought I wanted a dress that was kind of fun looking and comfortable, but had quite good coverage on my legs and on my shoulders so that I didn't have to be slathering on quite so much sun cream. And I went for the, what's it called? It's a chalk and notch pattern, I think. Let me just look it up. I should have done this in advance, I'm sorry. Ah yes, the chalk and notch fringe dress. And again, like most things I make, I did have to modify it a bit. But this is so fun because it's so colourful and stripy, and I really love bright colours. I tend to veer away from them in the winter because it doesn't sort of quite sit right. But in the summer, I tend to wear quite a lot of bright colours and patterns and things. And this is obviously no exception. This was a properly bargainer, I think possibly quilting cotton. It's like a poplin, and it strikes me, it feels a bit like a quilting cotton, and it was a narrower fabric, which makes me think it was intended to be a quilting cotton. I think I bought it from Fabrics Galore, because I just saw it, and as you probably know by now, I'm a proper bargain hunter, and it was on sale for something like £4 a metre, which is, when you're having to buy quite a lot for a dress, just a total bargain, and I couldn't resist. And I love the colours of all the stripes. I started calling it my deck chair dress, and my husband said the stripes on it reminded him a bit of Paul Smith things in the 90s, if anybody remembers, like Paul Smith shirts. But super stripy, super fun, looks like a deck chair, makes me look like a deck chair when I'm wearing it, and it turned out really great, and I had lots of compliments on it when I've worn it. The chalk and notch fringe dress is lovely. It has this kind of drop shoulder type design, and you can put cuffs on. It also has an option where you can put those like sleeve tab things on, but I decided not to on this because I thought it was just going to be too much with all the stripes. And then it has a sort of nice V-neck that's got a facing that goes all the way around on the inside, so the finish is lovely and clean, and you sew the facing down, and then it's got buttons down to the waistline, and then the skirt on the pattern is, I think they only do it on the pattern as like a knee length skirt, but I wanted something that was more midi or long length. So I did use the skirt patterns, but I lengthened them out a lot to make it quite long. Because as I said, I wanted that coverage on my legs, and I wanted it to be really comfortable and not be getting sunburnt and things. And you gather the waistband, you gather the skirt into the waistline. It has darts at the front, darts at the back, and then you can add waist ties if you wish to bring it in, which I did. I think the waist ties, they actually suggest that you put them in from where the front darts are, but I wanted it just for the back section. So modifications, apart from lengthening this a lot that I made, I also lengthened the bodice section, because although I've got quite a short body, as I said earlier, I do usually have to add an inch or two to make something hit my natural waist, and I wanted it on my natural waist because I wanted to be able to cinch it in there to give a bit more shape. I'm not too good in a completely sacky sort of shape with a dress. I don't think it even looks that bad. I think I'm just not used to wearing that sort of style, so I wanted the option of being able to cinch it in a bit by adding the ties. When I tried on, I made the whole bodice section and sleeves and things to start with, and then of course you put that on to see if it fits, don't you? And I didn't twirl this in advance. I just sort of went by my body measurements and thought, all right, we're just going to go for it, and we'll adjust as we go along if we need to. And I did have to, because it's got these lovely front darts in the bodice section that you can see that the stripes go into, which I think looks quite cool. And it also had darts on the back, but the darts on the back just made it far too tight around that section of my back, and far too tight around where the waistline was going to be, and I thought this is not going to be comfortable at all. It's not really very flattering. I know we hate that word these days, but it really wasn't. It looked terrible. But I found that if I just took the back darts out completely and then relied on the waist ties to do the shaping at the back, I could completely control how much it was cinched in at the back, and it looked way better. So I just took the darts out completely, pressed them back out again, and you can't tell that they were ever there. Oh no, there's a few little threads left still. I've already worn this and washed it several times, and there's still threads left there. How funny. But anywho, took out the back darts completely and it made it fit me a lot better. So even if you haven't twirled something, it's still possible to make something fit, because you can do things like adjusting exactly what happens with the darts as you go along. That's what I did. It worked. So it made it fit a lot better at the top. And then I put the gathered skirt on, and traditionally I should have known this about myself because I've done this before and had problems with it before. Something about the shape of my body doesn't like a gathered waistline at my waist. I could do it if it's a dropped waist or a raised waist for some reason, but if it's at my waistline, if there are gathers there, it makes me look like Frumpy McFrumpison, and something about the shape of my fat distribution or the shape of my hips just, I don't know, it just makes me look really frumpy and horrible. So I put this gathered skirt on this because it's gathered all the way around, and of course I put it on and was like, this just, it's more beach ball than deck chair. It was terrible looking. But I didn't have any of this fabric left to like squeeze it out of this narrow fabric. I can't remember how much I bought. I'd literally used every scrap to cut all the pieces out, so I couldn't even recut anything. And I thought, do I shorten? I think at this point I had also put pockets in, done the side seams, done everything. And I thought, well, I can't just flatten out the front section, because then I'm going to have to take the pockets out, do all that again to make that pattern piece smaller. And I thought, what am I going to do? These gathers look terrible. So I put it on and I pranced around in front of the mirror for a while, and I thought, okay, we've got to problem solve our way around this to make this wearable so I don't feel like a beach ball in it. And I'd sort of worked out that the gathering across the back was fine. It's not really tight gathering. It was enough that it sort of works. And it looked okay from the back, especially if I used the ties to like cinch it in a bit. But from the front, the gathers looked really awful, and in the end I decided I quite like shaping things with pleats, and they tend to look a lot better than gathers on me. So I took out, without having to undo the side seams at all, I ripped out all of the stitching and the gathering along that front waistline, flattened all the fabric out again, pressed it all to get rid of all the puckering and creasing that happens from the gathers, then figured out a way to just do one big giant pleat to take up that excess of fabric right down the front, which then gives a nice lengthening effect because you've got the button placket and then the pleat right down the middle. It made it hang much better, looked a lot less frumpy, and worked really well. I was considering, instead of doing the inward pleat like that, I was considering doing sort of two pleats outwards, like a box pleat. But then the intentionally not matched stripes started almost matching up at certain points, and the stripes then looked weird. So I had to do an inward pleat like that. I suppose they're both a box pleat, but I did it inwards rather than outwards. And it fixed the problem, thank goodness, because I was so excited about a dress out of this fabric and the deck chairness that I really didn't want it to be a complete fail. So it went from complete fail, frumpy grossness into actually really fun dress to wear that I got lots of compliments on. And because it's 100% cotton, it was really cool. We did actually have some really hot days at the festivals that we went to, and this was really nice and cool to wear. Covers my shoulders, covers my legs, but still fun and summery thing to wear. And I would wear this pretty much anywhere in the summer. I wear a uniform for work, but we do sometimes have, when it gets really, really hot in the control room where I work, we're sometimes allowed to not wear uniform in order to stay a bit cooler. And actually this would be a really work appropriate dress, I think, because it's, you know, when it's all lined up nicely, it's quite smart, but it's really cool and airy. It's long enough so it's not flashing anything, it's not low at the front, so I'd say it's quite professional and smart looking, as well as being fun. So I thought I could really get some good use out of this for that sort of occasion also. So a success. Deck chair dress. Hooray. The only dress I made in 2024, which is quite surprising because I really like making dresses, and it's making me want to make more dresses. Okay, so Next thing that I got finished, actually I might have done these all out of order, but what does it matter? You don't know. You don't know when I finish these things. This is just the next thing that I've got in front of me. Don't worry, there's not too many more. I made this pair of slightly comical, gigantic trousers out of beautiful green corduroy. Let me do the button up so it looks a bit better when I hold them up. This is the... Who's the pattern by? Wait one. Anyway, these bottle green corduroy trousers made out of quite a thick wale bottle green corduroy that I'd had for ages and ages are the Pattern Fantastique Terra pants. Do they call them Terra pants or is it Terra trousers? Terra pant. The Terra pant. Spelt T-E-R-R-A, like terra, like terra firma, not terra scary. They're this kind of very big, large, almost barrel leg kind of shape with pleats at the front and very high-waisted. I put patch pockets on the back. There's nice pockets in there. These were a bit of a journey to make. I'll put some pattern details up so you can see what the shape of these is like, and I'll try and get some pictures of me wearing them as well. They're intended that if you make them the size to fit your measurements, they are like a really high-waisted sort of nipped in waist and then come out from there. But they also suggest if you make them in a bigger size, or I suppose if by some magic I lost some weight, you can make a size up and they will be more of a slouchy sort of looks like you're wearing your dad's trousers kind of look. So I went for the size that went for my body measurements because I thought maybe I want something that hits on my waist. I was trying to be a bit adventurous because I'm not usually one for having something tight around my waist, but I thought I'd give it a go. And I don't normally do pleat front trousers either because I find that when you sit down you get loads of fabric everywhere and it just feels like too much going on. But I really liked the look of the trousers. I thought they were going to be really a statement and something interesting for me to try because I'd made trousers before but not anything quite like this. So I thought we'll give it a go. And there's lots of things I really like about these. But because of the shape of them, because I'm not used to it, I find it difficult to know how to style them and what to wear them with. I feel like they probably need something that's quite close fitting on the top half because they're so big and baggy. I mean, look how much fabric there is around the legs. Like, I'm just so not used to that with this sort of shape of trousers. I just seem to have real difficulty figuring out how to style them. So I have worn them, but not loads. I think I made them really nicely. They actually, without too much adjusting as I went along, fit pretty well straight out the pattern packet. I did add some length to the legs as I always usually have to. But they're really nice. I did like the cuffed version where they have these sort of permanent rolled up cuffs. I really like rolled up trouser cuffs. And they have a straight waistband, which normally doesn't fit me very well, but because of the way that the rest of the trousers are designed, it sort of dips down at the front and goes much higher up on the back bit of your waist. So for some reason, the straight waistband magically works with this when usually I have to make a straight waistband curved to fit me nicely. So that was kind of a win. I had a green zip that already looked quite good with the colour and a green button, so I was really pleased with all like the details. I did the pocket bags out of this fabric. There was some African wax print that had some left of and I just thought was really cool and it went. I have green overlocking thread. Green is my favourite colour, so I did that. So like the insides look really neat and nice. I did the fly really nicely. I think they're a really well made pair of trousers, but I'm going to show you some pictures of me wearing them and I want you to tell me how to style these. What do I wear these with? Because I'm just not used to the style of them and I struggle to put outfits together that include these. I don't even really know what shoes to wear with them. I'm finding it a bit tricky. But I think they could, worn with the right thing, I think they could be really cool looking and really statement-y. and a real hero of the wardrobe. Like, they're quite comfortable as well. I just need to get used to the bigness and bagginess of them and get used to what sort of things I wear with them. I think I made them really beautifully and I'm really proud of the sewing. Just don't know how to wear them, so it's kind of a win and a fail. But I'm keeping them because I might be able to make future items, or I might be able to dig things out of the wardrobe that would actually look really cool with these. If you can give me some outfit ideas down there, I would really like that. So I'm going to put them back on their hanger to go back in the wardrobe. We're nearly there, guys. We're nearly there. Gosh, didn't I do a lot of sewing? I thought I hadn't, but apparently I have. I think this is the last properly finished sewing item of the year, which you've all seen. If you've been here since the beginning, you've seen twice already. It's my Pogonip pullover. I'm not going to bang on about it. I've talked about this thing enough. One of the most worn items that I've made this year. I made it in the second half of the year, but it's already one of the most worn items probably ever in my wardrobe. It's comfy and cozy, and you can just chuck it on over anything. It's now got its lovely neckline as per my last video where I was talking about this. If you're interested in my particular version of the Pogonip pullover, I talk about it at quite some length in my Sew and Knitcast episodes 1 and 2, where it was a finished item in both, but the second one I'd basically improved it. So that is everything that I sewed in 2024. I didn't think it was going to be that much, but it's actually quite a lot of stuff, isn't it? But all made with intention and purpose, I think. Some fails, some total wins. Lots of lessons learnt, lots of food for thought to take forward into 2025 for my crafting year. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you are officially my #1 fan. But let's hope 2025 is just as thoughtful and creative and productive. I hope to continue that. If you're usually here for the knitting, you've probably stopped watching this already, but if not, you might want to go and look at the last video, which is all the things that I got knitted in 2024. Fewer items, but a few interesting things in there, if that's your jam. Otherwise, please take a moment to hit subscribe if you think you'd like to stick around and see more of what I'm getting up to in my fibre and textile filled world. Hit the like if you thought this was in any way useful, interesting or inspiring, and enjoy all your making, creating, knitting, sewing, crafting adventures, and I will see you next time.